she's starting to get used to that.
I'm getting this here.
It happens to be where I'm stuck.
Can I have your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen? Gentlemen, welcome to the County Council meeting of March 22nd, 2011. Please turn off your cell phone, pagers, Blackberries, watches, anything that beeps. This meeting is being recorded. We have one exception, Mr. Greenspan, who's on a baby watch, and we let him leave his cell phone on, because he may have to leave immediately to go to his wife. But other than that, please turn them off. All right, meeting will come to order, and we'd like to rise for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In our moment of silence this evening, we would like to reflect on Sandusky Police Officer Andrew Dunn, who was 30 years old, who was killed in the line of duty early Saturday morning. Officer Dunn was the first Sandusky police officer killed in line of duty in this century. His father is a longtime Sandusky police officer, Officer Matthew Dunn. Officer Andrew Dunn was a full-time officer since 2008 and a reserve officer for 5 years. Officer Dunn tragically leaves behind his wife and 2 children, and we'd like to take a moment of silence to reflect on him as a dedicated public servant. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Germana.
Here.
Here. Mr. Schron. Here. Ms. Conwell. Here. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Conley.
Here.
Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Here. Mr. Greenspan.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Brady.
Present.
There is a quorum.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first 3 months of our county council, we have followed the procedure of calling a roll call vote on every single vote. This was necessary for the clerk, who was not familiar with all the members' voices, so that to ensure that votes were correctly recorded. However, in discussions with individual council members, we've decided it's no longer necessary to call the roll on every single vote. We refer to the rules of council, both our temporary rules and our permanent rules. And I'd like to point out Rule 10C that states that voting on all matters shall generally be held by voice vote, except that a roll call vote may be held on any matter at the discretion of the presiding officer or upon the request of any member or the request of the clerk. So as a result, we will start at this meeting before taking a vote, ask if there's any objections, and then call for a voice vote, remembering that at any time any member wants to have a roll call vote, then we will have a roll call vote. Such votes will be conducted according to procedures established by Rule 10C. However, I would under Rule 10C. All right. Thank you. Before we have any public comment, I would like to introduce the members of the Ward 1 Neighborhood Leadership Academy. Beg to stand up or be recognized. They are some dedicated community citizens. And I understand that there are some other graduates of these neighborhood academies, Mr. Nanny and some other people, that they come down and learn about government. Oh, Mr. Ivory? Yeah, okay. So thank you for coming, and Sharon Cole? Okay. Nora Lockett. So this is a wonderful program. So we appreciate you coming, and we'll be available for any questions. All right. This is an opportunity for public comment. And is anyone signed in?
Madam President, Linda Mayer would like to address item number 21.
Okay. Ms. Mayer, come forward.
Linda Mayer Ethics Work Group for the Transition Effort, and Madam President. It just came to my attention as I looked at the Policies and Procedures Manual, and I have spoken with 3 members of council about this already, and they're aware of it. But I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of it, that in Section 3 of the Human Resource Policies and Procedures Manual, this is called the Code of Ethics, and just looking over it, it's not very long, but it does not align with the county ethics ordinance that you're about to pass in 2 weeks. And so the charter names human resources as the enforcer of any ethics law passed by the council. So it needs to align very well with the provisions that are in this thing. It's item number 21 on the agenda for today. So I hope you will pay attention to that one, and if there's a move to postpone it till the next meeting, to the 3rd reading, that would be a good thing, because I think it needs fixing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mayor. I believe it is on the agenda for a 2nd reading, and we'll have an opportunity to review that and we'll take into consideration your remarks. All right, thank you. Okay, we're skipping the suspension now. All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of March the 15th? They have been circulated in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
Simon, seconded by Mr. Schron. All those, any objection to the minutes that circulated? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Message from the county executive.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be quite brief, and I made some of my comments during the work session. But first of all, just in terms of personnel matters, the leadership team of the executive branch is almost complete. We just have a couple positions to go. We are interviewing candidates for medical examiner and fiscal officer, and I expect to have those processes. Those are really the 2 final leadership positions. I expect that to be completed shortly. We made our announcement officially yesterday about Majid Makhlouf as our nominee for law director, and as I said during the work session, he's a person of outstanding credentials, and I think he's going to serve the county very, very, very ably. Also, just a couple other mentions on personnel matters. We are under, of course, a lot of fiscal pressure in particular because of the state cuts that we know are coming. We are going to be announcing some personnel reductions later in this week, and we're going over them today and tomorrow, but I expect that there'll be an announcement by the end of the week about the first round and what are to be some additional reductions of personnel. On a positive note, we have about the first consecutive 6-month period that we've had in a long time where property tax revenues are increasing by around 3%. So there are some signs that the local economy is, sales tax, and so there are some signs that the local economy is starting to pick up, but there isn't any expectation it's going to pick up at such a pace that it's not going to require us to shrink the size of our local government. So we're going to be dealing with that. Finally, I invited you last week, and we announced that we're going to be doing the State of the County address on April the 6th, and it's complimentary, I think, not of myself, but just of the level of public interest in county government that I think they're probably going to sell out. They already have over 300 people that have purchased tickets for it. It's at the Marriott, and it's being sponsored by the City Club. But again, that's a compliment. I don't think the fact that I'm going to give something particularly inspiring, but that there really is a high level of interest in what the county is and what we're all trying to build here. Thank you.
I think I'm going to add that we have set the confirmation hearing for Mr. Makhlouf on March the 29th at 3 o'clock in this room. So it'll be a committee of the whole for confirmation hearings. All right, moving on the agenda, and item number 8, consideration of a motion of council for first reading and adoption and suspension of the rule. Madam Clerk. Oh, we have to suspend the rules.
Right, Madam
Okay.
President.
Yes.
I move that Rule 70, requiring motions of council to be read on 2 separate regular council meetings, Rule 9D, requiring ordinances and resolutions to be read at three separate regular council meetings, and Rule 13A, requiring reference to committee to dispense with, and that motion 2011-0017 be placed on final passage at tonight's meeting.
All right, moved by Mr. Greenspan and seconded by Mr. Miller. Any objections? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the rules are suspended. And now we'll have Madam Clerk read item 0017.
Madam Chair, would you like to ask all those opposed?
All those opposed? Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Motion number 2011-0017, a motion amending Rule 16D of the Rules of the Cuyahoga County Council to change the expiration date of the rules to April 26, 2011.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Mr. Rogers. Is there any discussion on this? I just like to, I'd actually asked for this because Mr. Miller has done an outstanding job of preparing the rules, but we have all been working so diligently, and everyone has been on so many different projects, and we're just really getting the feel for these rules. And I ask that we have a little bit more time to make sure that we get them right from the beginning. So if anyone has any changes to these rules, they should be submitted by noon on April the 15th, and then they will be on the agenda for the following meetings for passage. All right? Is there any other discussion on that? All right, so are we ready? We ready for a call and vote? All right, all those in favor of 0017 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, item number 9, consideration of motion of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Motion number 2011-0018, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of Norberto Colon to serve on the Public Safety Urban Area Working Group.
All right, we'll refer this matter to Human Resources.
Motion number 2011-0019, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of individuals to serve on the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission. Mayor Eileen Patton, Fairview Park for the West Shore region. Mayor Michael Prokop, Brooklyn Heights for the Cuyahoga region. Ed Jers, Director of Regional Collaboration. And Nathan Kelly, Deputy Chief of Development, as alternate to County Executive Edward Fitzgerald.
And these will go to Human Resources.
Motion number 2011-0020, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of individuals to serve on tax incentive review councils. Jeffrey Schiffman, Jonathan Holliday, Andrew Revy, and Joe Missoula.
And this will also go to Human Resources.
Motion number 2011-0021, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of Nick Nardi to serve on the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees.
All right, also to Human Resources. So, Ms. Conwell, do you have those? All right. All right, thank you. Item number 10, committee reports and consideration of a motion of council for second reading adoption under suspension of the rules.
Madam President, I move that Rule 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions to be read at 3 different regular meetings of council be dispensed with, and that M2011-0016 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to suspend the rules. Any objection? All right, all those in favor can indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Madam Clerk.
Motion number 2011-0016, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of individuals to serve on the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority Board of Trustees. Mayor Gary Norton for the unexpired term ending March 31st, 2012, and Karen Gabriel Moss for the unexpired term ending March 31st, 2013.
Moved by Mr. Rogers, second by Ms. Conwell. I believe Ms. Moss is here. Yeah, she's here. Is there anything from the committee, any comments on this? All right, any objection? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Congratulations, Ms. Moss. Congratulations to Mr. Norton, Mayor Norton also. All right, consider item number 11, consideration of a resolution of council for first reading, adoption, and suspension of the rules.
Madam Chairperson.
Yes.
Rule 9D requiring ordinance and resolutions to be read on 3 different regular council meetings, and Rule 13A requiring reference to committee be suspended, and that resolutions are 2011-0107 and Resolution 2011-0108 be considered for passage at tonight's meeting.
All right, all those in favor of suspending the rules indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2011-0107, a resolution providing for the appointment of Nakima S. Barnhill as Deputy Clerk of Council and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Mr. Greenspan. Ms. Barnhill was one of probably about 40 applicants that we had, and we narrowed it down and interviewed and re-interviewed, and we were pleased to recommend her as assistant clerk. She's actually lives in Dayton, Ohio, and has a degree, a master's in business administration, a master's in public administration, also a bachelor's degree in history, and she's worked for a number of governmental organizations and has a broad experience, and will be moving here to Cleveland, so we'll increase our population by 1. And we're very pleased and looking forward. She's very enthusiastic about working for us and working with us, and we're very fortunate to have her. Any other discussion? Yes.
I just want to commend Councilwoman Conwell and Joe, Nani, and Jean, and everybody who spent that entire week on a marathon interviewing process with these candidates. And it was a tough choices. They were great candidates. I was able to sit in on more than a few and was extremely impressed. But I just want to say thank you to that team who did a stellar job in really narrowing it down to the top. Thank you.
All right. If no further discussion, are we prepared to vote?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The ayes have it. Ms. Barnhill will be on board. And item number 10108.
Resolution number 2011-0108, a resolution providing for the appointment of George M. Phillips as Administrative Assistant 2 to serve the Council of Cuyahoga County and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Ms. Conwell. This is Mr. Phillips over here, the second chair next to Mr. Morales. He has worked quite diligently, and I think somebody's named him Radar because he's sort of always available, and he's done really great customer service. I'm very, very pleased. I had lots of compliments of people who came into the office. He has worked for the county for about 3 years, so it really is beneficial. He's sort of our unofficial ombudsman, so if you call to the county, he's able to give you a lot of information and direction. It really saves some of us that we may not know where to tell people to go, and he already has that information. So we appreciate it. Yeah, he tells us where to go to sometimes. But he's been very diligent, and this is more than a 9-to-5 job, because we have meetings in the evening, and I know he was out the other night with Mr. Greenspan and I for a regional meeting. So we're welcome, and we're very glad to have you. All right. Any other comments? All right, if there's no unreadiness, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, congratulations, Mr. Phillips. All right, item number 12, committee report and consideration of a resolution of council for second reading and adoption under suspension of the rules.
Madam President, I move that Rule 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions to be read at 3 different regular council meetings be suspended, and Resolution R2011-0085 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting. Anyone second?
Moved by Ms. Conwell, seconded by Mr. Rogers for suspension of the rules. Is there any discussion on the suspension of the rules? All right, all those in favor of suspending the rules indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
No.
All right, you want to call the roll on that? All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll on that suspension.
Okay, suspending the rules. Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes. No.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Conley? Yes. Mr. Rogers? Yes. Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Yes. Carries 9-2.
All right, ayes have it, the rules are suspended. Madam Clerk, would you read the motion, please?
Resolution number 2011-0085, a resolution objecting to Senate Bill 5, which would sharply curtail collective bargaining rights of Ohio public employees, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Mr. Rogers, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Shrine.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. What I did is I took the liberty to actually do some research in regards to organizations and those within my own community and within my district. The Ohio School Board Association is supporting this action as far as Senate Bill 5. The County Commissioners Association recommends that there be a change to include provisions basically like Senate Bill 5. I don't believe that there was any hearing or any testimony taken at the committee level within from the council itself. No school boards, no community mayors, no township trustees. None of those were brought before this council. So I'm just asking that they would have asked for some consideration of those kind of groups out there. Thank you. That's my background.
Mr. Greenspan.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a special torn perspective on this particular bill, and I have 2 amendments. I firmly believe that public safety forces should not be included in SB 5, and I have 2 amendments I'd like to read. I'll read each one. I would presume then require a second. The first amendment is to replace the second whereas provision in the resolution. The second amendment, my first amendment would read, whereas as passed out of the Senate SB 5, which sharply curtail the collective bargaining rights for public safety employees, including police officers and firefighters. And that's what I would like to replace the second paragraph in the resolution that's before us. I would seek a second.
Second.
All right, been moved and seconded. You want to have a roll call? Any discussion on that, on the amendment? All right, do you want to have a roll call vote on the amendment?
Mike.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
No.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Ms. Conley?
No.
Mr. Rogers? No. Ms. Simon?
No.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Brady?
No.
All right, the motion to amend is defeated. Mr. Greenspan.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I have a second amendment, Section 1, under the now therefore. My amendment would be to replace Section 1 with the following language, that this council hereby objects to Senate Bill 5, which would sharply curtail the collective bargaining rights for public safety employees, including police officers and firefighters. And I would seek a second.
All right, moved by Mr. Greenspan and seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry. By the amendment, I'm embarrassed, but I don't really completely understand it.
Would you like me to reread it, or?
But we'll reread it, and if that's not enough, then I'll...
No, that's fine, that's fine. The amendment is that this council hereby objects to Senate Bill 5, which would sharply curtail the collective bargaining rights for public safety employees, including police officers and firefighters. It's effectively carving out police and fire, public safety.
Okay. This one.
All right, you can call for a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Mr. Schron? Ms. Conwell? Mr. Jones?
No.
Ms. Conley? Mr. Rogers? Ms. Simon?
No.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Brady?
All right, the amendment is defeated. So we are back to a vote on the original resolution as provided. Is there any discussion on that?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a general statement. I feel so strongly that public safety should be excluded from SB 5 that I will be supporting this resolution to oppose SB 5 for the simple fact that my position regarding the public safety force is being excluded.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would echo those thoughts for myself. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
I lost my place. Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
No.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Simon? Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, the motion carries. We will forward that resolution to the appropriate legislative body. All right, we do. All right, item 12, consideration of a resolution of council for third reading adoption. Madam Clerk, will you read the resolution 0002?
Resolution 2011-0002, a resolution opposing House Bill 3 of the 129th Ohio General Assembly that would amend the Ohio Revised Code to repeal the estate tax for the estates of individuals dying on or after January 1st, 2013, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Moved by Mr. Rogers, seconded by Ms. Simon. Is there any discussion?
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Schrein.
The last meeting, we did have two amendments that were brought before this, the council, and they were both defeated, so those amendments I will not reintroduce them at this time.
All right, any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Germana.
we aired this resolution at the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, and the fact of the matter is 80 cents out of every dollar from this estate tax is going to municipalities. And in view of the cuts to the local government fund, I think we should go ahead and pass this resolution in opposition to eliminating the estate tax at this time.
Any further discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
No.
Mr. Schron?
No.
Ms. Conwell? Yes. Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Simon? Yes. Mr. Greenspan?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, likewise, this resolution is adopted and will be forwarded to the appropriate parties. Thank you very much, councilors. All right, Item number 14, consideration of an ordinance of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2011-0020, an ordinance encouraging public attendance at meetings and participation in county government by providing no-cost parking for citizens attending regularly scheduled Cuyahoga County Council meetings and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
All right, Mr. Rogers, did you want to speak on this? We're just going to be referring to committee, but did you want to speak on it?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, briefly. This is just an opportunity for us to expand the amount of people attending our meetings by providing free parking. It's something that I've been talking about since we've been meeting and before we were sworn in, that I think it's important that considering the high cost of parking that we sometimes find downtown, that we have an opportunity for people to attend our meetings at no cost. So I hope to have 100% support for this. Thank you.
All right, we'll refer this matter to the Public Works Committee. Mr. Jones? All right, thank you.
Madam President, if I
Yes.
may, additional sponsors have come forward
yes,
for
please.
this ordinance, and I would like to include on the listing Ms. Conwell and yourself.
All right, thank you.
Clerk, I also would like to be a sponsor of this ordinance.
Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 15, consideration of an ordinance of council for second reading and referral to committee. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2011-0014, an ordinance establishing the Board of Control, establishing procedures governing the making of county contracts and the purchasing of county supplies and equipment, providing procedures for the making of public improvements, establishing procedures under which the county executive may employ experts and consultants in connection with the administration of the affairs of the county, and providing the terms upon which the county may cooperate or join by contract with any municipality, county, state, or political subdivision or agency thereof in making public improvements or providing common services.
We had a very lively discussion on this issue of the Board of Control. For those of you who were not here, this basically will allow the Board of Control to make decisions on county contracts and will facilitate the process of going through council. So what it is basically the council is giving up some of their rights as it relates to contracts to the Board of Control, and everything under $100,000 will be decided on by the county executive. And actually, he's given me a list of those items that he's done this week, and I'm going to provide those to the rest of council. And then between $100,000 and $500,000, they'll go to the Board of Controls, and after that, they would come before council. And then council would have an opportunity to take things out of the Board of Controls if we were particularly concerned about them. But it's just a matter to facilitate the large number of contracts that we have before council. Any other comments on that? So we will have it on the agenda April the 10th. Is that correct? No, that's
12th.
12th. Okay. Mr. Miller, did you have any comment?
Madam President, it's an important and a complex ordinance, and we want to give all members of council a chance to look at it, and there's some technical revision advice that we got from the county prosecutor's office, so we would like if it could be re-referred to the Public Works Committee, and we're going to hold another hearing on it in committee.
Is it Public Works or Finance?
Public Works.
Public Works, okay.
Yeah.
This is very, very complicated legislation. This is not an easy process, and it really involves some real policy decisions on the part of council and working with the executive. So we thought it was important to make sure that we got it right the first time.
Madam President,
Yes.
my colleague Prunell Jones has done an outstanding job of helping us take the ordinance this far, and we want to continue the work in that committee.
Okay. All right, so we assume that we will get this back from committee at the appropriate time. All right, so no action, well, it's referral back to committee.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you. Item number 16, consideration of an ordinance of council for third reading and adoption.
Ordinance number 2011-0012, an ordinance amending the public records policy for Cuyahoga County and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
All right, moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Greenspan.
Madam President.
Oh, okay, Mr. Miller.
Madam President, I would like to offer to the committee 2 technical amendments, and I've passed them out so that you each have them in front of you. And I will move to amend and move the item that's listed as Public Records Amendment Number 1. And if someone would offer a second, then I will explain the amendment.
Second.
All right, but moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Germana on the amendment.
Okay. Madam President, members of council, the first amendment deals with the fact that state law explicitly says that if a public office has a general policies and procedures manual that we distribute to all employees, that the public records policy has to be included in that manual. And so since we have a manual like that, it just tracks that and provides that our public records policy will be included in the manual.
All right, any discussion on that? All right, so we need to vote on the amendment.
Right.
All right. Any other discussion or objections to the amendment? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it to the first adoption of the first amendment. Mr. Miller.
I would move the second amendment. It's listed as Public Records Amendment Number 2 that I passed out. And if someone would offer a second, then I'll explain the
Second.
amendment. Okay.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Schron on the second amendment.
Madam President, members of council, it came to my attention that the clerk of courts charges 10 cents a page for public records by court order, which is different than the general interim 3 cents a page that we provide in this ordinance until we determine costs for public records. And we don't want to fight with the courts over the cost of public records. So this amendment simply says, except as otherwise provided by court order, the following copying costs shall apply until the county council first determines and establishes the copying costs. So it just creates an exception for the courts.
All right, is there any discussion on that amendment? All right, all those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it as to the second amendment. All right, so is there any discussion on item 0012 as amended? All right, I hearing no unreadiness. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The public record policy is adopted. All right, item 17, consideration of resolution for first reading under suspension of the rules.
Madam President, I'll handle number 17 and move that, if that's Rule 9D, requiring ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular council meetings, be suspended, and that the following resolutions be placed on final passage at tonight's meeting. Those resolutions being 2011-109, 110, 111, 112, 113, and 114. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so moved by Ms. Simon. Was that seconded by Mr. Miller? All right, under suspension of the rule. Any discussion on the suspension of the rules? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2011-0109, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 19882 to Dell Marketing in the amount not to exceed $774,282.96 for the purchase of computer equipment for the Court of Common Pleas and Clerk of Courts, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award, and declaring necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move for passage.
Second.
All right, moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion?
Madam President? Yes. Council heard earlier during our work session that 109 and 110 are both resolutions for the purchase of computer equipment at the Common Pleas General Division. And I think what was significant that came out of that particular work session discussion was that the money for these computers is going to come out straight out of the court's computer special fund rather than our general fund. So I urge that we pass this, and that court's waited a long time, I think 6 years to longer to purchase this equipment and has saved their money for this particular purpose. So I do urge council to support this.
And also, the old computers are going to be recycled and hopefully given to nonprofit agencies or libraries or something, so or schools, so that there'll be an additional benefit to the community. All right, any other unreadiness discussion? All right, all those in favor on voting on the computers for 0109 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2011-0110, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 19884 to Dell Marketing in the amount not to exceed $301,704.76 for the purchase of computer software for the Court of Common Pleas and Clerk of Courts, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
All right, any discussion? We do have someone here from the clerk's office, the court administrator from Common Pleas Court, Judge First, the administrative judge was here earlier.
Madam President?
Yes.
Move to adopt.
All right.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any other discussion? All right, no one ready this. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. 111.
Resolution number 2011-0111, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 19964 to Dell Marketing in the amount not to exceed $286,486.57 for the purchase of computer equipment for juvenile court, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Simon, seconded by Mr. Schron. Any discussion?
Madam President, I'm sorry, I have a question regarding CD&E. Are these the only computer purchases that we're going to be requested to vote on for the Juvenile Justice Center? Is this it? This is about $1.45 million. I know the executive made reference that there would be a total of 1.8. Were we able to pare that 1.8 or so down to, is this it?
The court administrator from juvenile court is here. We can put her on the hot seat.
Rita Cadillac, Court Administrator, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Division. Yes, it is my understanding and belief that this is the total amount of computers, servers, and printers that the juvenile court is requesting. There may be some outstanding items that I honestly cannot address, that Mr. Hunter can address, that have to do with the wiring. And the wiring was included in the initial projected cost.
Okay,
Okay.
Good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenspan, and good luck tonight.
Thank you. Referring to my baby, not my vote.
Madam Chair?
Ms. Simon.
Or what that meant. My comment is that originally, as I understand it, that this original estimate was 2.5 million for these computers, and after the executive got into office, that these purchases were reassessed, and through the help with his staff, were be able to pare down the cost to what we're looking at within the 1.6. So it has been pared down significantly. State contracts. So I'm going to urge passage because the court does need these computers to function, and the doors need to open as soon as possible for a lot of reasons.
All right, any other discussion, questions? All right, any readiness? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Item 0112.
Resolution number 2011-0112, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 19967 to MNJ Technologies Direct Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $627,229.40 for the purchase of computer equipment for juvenile court, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
All right, any discussion on this item? Any discussion? Ms. Simon?
To move to adopt. So I'm moving. Okay.
So is that moved, Ms. Simon, seconded by Ms. Conwell, sorry. Any discussion now? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Item 0113.
Resolution number 2011-0113, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 19970 to Data Recovery Services in the amount not to exceed $518,394.24 for the purchase of computer equipment for juvenile court, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? Any unreadiness? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, Madam Clerk, item 0114.
Resolution number 2011-0114, a resolution amending the 2011 annual appropriation measure by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schrein, seconded by Ms. Simon. For any discussion on any of these items? For the people from the Neighborhood Academy, in case you're interested, this is when we get every 2 weeks, and they're basically transfers among different funds for the county, and we all go over them quite diligently, and we've spent some time on a number of them in the work session asking very specific questions. A lot of these are funds that we get from the federal government that we then distribute to various county agencies. One that I found interesting that we got in like $112,000 from wireless companies that use 911. So it's $112,000 going into the general fund. The fund is from fees assessed for 911 calls. I never knew that. So these kinds of things and transfers among different funds. So that we are presented with these every week so that we can know and ask various questions and scrutinize them. All right, any unreadiness on those? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, consideration of a resolution for first reading referral to committee.
Resolution number 2011-0021, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Cleveland Food Bank Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $272,500 for emergency food purchase and distribution to Cuyahoga County hunger centers and food pantries serving residents in need for the period January 1, 2011 through March 31, 2011.
Okay, this now will be referred to the Health and Human Services Committee. Mr. Brady.
Resolution number 2011-0115, a resolution authorizing the county executive to approve an additional settlement for property rights for the temporary taking of 3,870 square feet in connection with the grading, draining, and paving of Bainbridge Road from Somme Center Road to the Solon East Corporation line in the city of Solon, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
All right, we'll refer this matter to the Public Works Committee. Mr. Jones.
Resolution number 2011-0116, a resolution authorizing the county executive to grant sewer builders licenses for the year 2011, authorizing the Director of Public Works to execute said licenses.
All right, this is one we'll refer to Public Works, hopefully that we will not have to refer in the future.
Resolution number 2011-0117, a resolution approving specifications and estimate of cost in the amount not to exceed $365,121 for construction of an energy center at the Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds related to the Fairgrounds Wind Turbine Project, authorizing the Director of the Office of Procurement and Diversity to advertise for bids on requisition number 19570.
We're going to refer this to Public Works and also to Sustainability so that they can have a joint committee meeting on this project since it involves the use of the wind turbines.
Resolution number 2011-0118, a resolution granting authority for the Director of the Office of Procurement and Diversity to advertise and to issue RFP number 19343 for the purchase of electric utility services for county-owned facilities for the period June 1, 2011 through May 31, 2012.
And then we're going to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0119, a resolution rescinding resolution number 104762 dated October 28, 2010, that made an award on requisition number 15326 to Phillips Electric in the amount of $1,401,300 for a wind turbine generator to be located at the county fairgrounds for the period November 19, 2011 through November 18, 2011.
This also is going to Public Works and Sustainability, but we're rescinding the contract, so do we need to discuss something that we're going to rescind?
Yeah, it's 10.
That one with that one. Okay, all right. All right, so they'll go to Public Works and Sustainability.
I may have read the period November 19, 2011, but it should be November 19, 2010 through November 18, 2011.
Okay.
Resolution number 2011-0120, a resolution making an award on requisition number 15326 and authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Hallis Power Systems in the amount of $1,400,000 for a wind turbine generator to be located at the county fairgrounds for the period March 22, 2011 through March 21, 2012.
All right, that will go to Public Works and also Sustainability, Mr. Jones and Mr. Rogers. Yes.
I would just call to your attention that the start date of this is supposed to be on today's date, so we're going to have to deal with that.
Right.
Resolution number 2011-0121, a resolution making an award on requisition number 18560 and authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Infinity Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $5,490,000 for the Corrections Center Jail Kitchen renovation project.
Yeah, this will go to Public Safety. The jail kitchen, which has to provide about 6,000 meals a day, is the original kitchen that was built in the Justice Center for 1970, 77. This is the gentleman, Kosvar? Mr. Kosvar from the Sheriff's Office. And this is going to be a teaching kitchen. So the people in the jail will be able to, some people will be able to work in the kitchen and hopefully get some training when they are no longer incarcerated. So Mr. Gallagher will be looking at public safety. Anything you want to say about that, Mr. Kosvar? Come to the microphone. How are you going to feed your inmates while you're working on the kitchen?
The new kitchen, council members, will be built on the first floor of Jail 2. The existing kitchen is on the fourth floor of Jail 1. So we will continue operating out of the old kitchen until the new one is ready. Okay. So we're looking forward to it because our current kitchen is, again, 34 years old and in very bad shape and in need of replacement.
Would you invite us over to dinner when you get this finished?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, number 0123.
We 122, ma'am.
I'm sorry, did I skip one? 10122. But we're only visiting. You know that visiting jail card you get in Monopoly? We'll just be visiting.
Resolution number 2011-0122, a resolution making an award on requisition number 19284 and authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Great Lakes Construction Company in the amount of $4,954,904.03 for construction of a grade separation on Fitch Road over the Norfolk Southern Railroad in the city of North Olmsted and Olmsted Township, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This will go to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0123, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, change order number 2 to contract number CE 0800-267 with HNTB Ohio Incorporated for general engineering services for various projects for the period April 1, 2008 through March 31, 2011, to extend the time period. And on the agenda, it says March 31st, 2013. I understand there was a last-minute correction to that, and it should be December 31st, 2011.
All right, we'll refer this to Public Works.
And the same goes for the next item, where they're extending the time period to March 31st on the agenda. The last-minute change was to extend it to December 31st, 2011. Resolution number 2011-0124, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, change order number 2 to contract number CE 0900-375 with Wilbur Smith Associates Incorporated, Ohio, for general engineering services for various projects for the period April 1, 2009 through March 31, 2011, to extend the time period to to December 31, 2011.
That will go to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0125, a resolution authorizing an economic development loan in the amount not to exceed $500,000 to 7204 Pearl Road Associates to assist in the acquisition and renovation of a facility located at 7204 Pearl Road, Middleburg Heights, authorizing the county executive and/or director of development to execute all documents required in connection with said loan, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This matter will go to the Economic Development Committee. Mr. Shrine.
Resolution number 2011-0126, a resolution authorizing an economic development loan in the amount not to exceed $53,000 to Archer Realty for infrastructure improvements of its headquarters facility located at 15601 Brook Park Road, Brook Park, authorizing the county executive and/or director of development to execute all documents required in connection with said loan, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This will go to Economic Development.
Resolution number 2011-0127, a resolution authorizing a Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund subgrant award between the County of Cuyahoga through the Department of Development and the City of Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $454,953, authorizing the county executive and/or director of development to execute all documents in relation to the Revolving Loan Fund subgrant agreement, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This matter will go to the Economic Development Committee.
Resolution number 2011-0128, a resolution authorizing an economic development loan in the amount not to exceed $500,000 to MB&W Consumer Collections Incorporated for the acquisition of a facility located at 7088 West 130th Street, Middleburg Heights, authorizing the county executive and/or director of development to execute all documents required in connection with said loan, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
So go to Economic Development.
Resolution number 2011-0129, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract number CE 1100132 with Union Eye Care Center Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $549,010.20 for the provision of vision insurance to county employees for the period January 1, 2011 through December 31, 2013, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Let's go to Human Resources and Ms. Conwell.
Resolution number 2011-0130, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract number CE 1100162 with Ports Petroleum Company Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $633,375 for gasoline for various county facilities for the period January 1, 2011 through December 31, 2011.
So go to Public Works.
Madam President, as a note, we were told that the legislation, the dates were not throughout the same as December 31st, 2011, and so I went into it to change the legislation after it was sent out in order to reflect the correct date throughout the entire piece of legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Additionally, if anyone would like to know what those extension numbers are for, 01, 02, 03, 04, those are internal codes in order to keep track of funding sources. For example, for gasoline for various county facilities, each one of those numbers would identify an index code attached to a facility where the gas then would be charged to those facilities. And also, they could change if the name of a vendor changes or certain circumstances. So I just wanted to point that out in
Right,
case
thank
you were
you.
wondering. Resolution number 2011-0131, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into amendments to contracts with various providers for residential treatment services for the Youth and Family Community Partnership Program for the period January 1, 2010 through December 31, 2010, to exercise an option to extend the time period to December 31, 2011, and for additional funds.
These matters will go to Justice Affairs because these are facilities that are used by the juvenile court to refer. They're shelter care as opposed to incarceration. So Ms. Simon will be taking care of those on Justice Affairs.
As a technical point,
Yeah.
is it imperative that I read these items 1 through 6 into the record?
No, it's okay. We can skip the. We just refer it to committee.
Okay.
Well, we can. It goes to Applewood, Beachbrook, Belfair Home, Catholic Family Services, Cleveland Christian Home, and the Village Network. So we'll take care of them on committees.
Thank you. Resolution number 2011-0132, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into amendments to contracts with various providers for residential treatment services to exercise an option to extend the time period to January 31st, 2012, and for additional funds as printed on the agenda.
All right, so these will go to Cleveland Christian Home, the Glen Mill School, and, yeah, just those two. And that will be going to Justice Affairs.
Resolution number 2011-0133, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into amendments to contracts with various providers for staff secure shelter care services for the period January 1, 2010 through December 31, 2010, to exercise an option to extend the time period to December 31, 2011, and for additional funds.
That will be going to Justice Affairs also.
Resolution number 2011-0134, a resolution authorizing the execution of a 14th supplemental base lease, 14th supplemental lease, and 10th supplemental assignment of rights under a lease with University Hospitals Health System Incorporated in connection with the release of certain property now constituting a portion of the leased real property, securing previous issues of hospital improvement revenue bonds for the County of Cuyahoga, Ohio, authorizing other documents in connection with said release and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
I will go to Health and Human Services. All right, item 19, committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading under suspension of the rules.
Madam President, I move that Rule 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular council meetings be suspended, and that resolutions 2011-076, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 88, 89, 90, 91, 93, 94, 95, 7, 98, 101, 102, and 104 be placed on final passage at tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
I moved by Mr. Jones and seconded by Ms. Conwell for suspension of the rules. Any discussion on suspension of the rules? All right, all those in favor of suspending the rules indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the rules are suspended, So we will be taking unless there's any objection, we'll be taking a voice vote on each one of these items.
Okay.
And make sure we keep me in line and we got the right numbers here. So we are 0076?
That's correct.
Okay.
Resolution number 2011-0076, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, subsidiary number 1, to contract number CE 10315 with Perk Company Incorporated for rehabilitation of West 130th Street from Snow Road to Brook Park Road in the cities of Brook Park and Parma for a decrease in the amount of $226,457.98.
Any discussion?
Move for adoption.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, or Mr. Germana, and seconded by Mr. Miller. This is Mr. Germana's district.
And mine.
Okay.
Yes, right.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Resolution adopted. 0077.
Resolution number 2011-0077, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, subsidiary number 1, to contract number CE 10334 with Burton Scott Contractors for repair and resurfacing of Usher Road from Sprague Road to Bagley Road in the city of Olmsted Falls and Olmsted Township for a decrease in the amount of $20,941.27.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher, seconded by Mr. Greenspan. Any discussion? This is a decrease. This money will go back to the general fund. 22. All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I oppose. All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0078, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into an amendment to contract number CE 12377 with Glaus, Pyle, Schomer, Burns, and DeHaven Incorporated, doing business as GPD Associates, for consultant engineering services for replacement of Bel Air Road Bridge number 24 over Big Creek and replacement of West 130th Street Bridge number 64 over a branch of Big Creek in the city of Cleveland and Village of Lindale for additional funds in the amount of $243,541.66 and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Mr. Conwell. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0079, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an agreement for settlement of property rights in connection with repair of the Stump Road sewer improvement located in the city of Parma Heights, County Sewer District Number 1, in an amount equal to the approved appraisal fair market value estimate of $9,150 for parcel numbers 473210002S and 473210029S, which are permanent sanitary sewer easements located at 6330 Pearl Road, Cleveland, Ohio 44130, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Motion to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Germana, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0080, a resolution authorizing the county executive to grant sewer builders licenses for the year 2011 and authorizing the director of public works to execute said licenses and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of granting the sewer licenses indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution's adopted. Are we at 0081?
Yes.
Okay.
Resolution number 2011-0081, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a revenue-generating agreement with Life Bank for lease of space at the county coroner's building located at 11001 Cedar Avenue, Cleveland, for the period December 1, 2010 through December 31, 2013, for a fee to the county in the amount of $27,600 per annum, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Mr. Rogers. Any discussion? Apparently, I did find out that we are one of the only coroner's offices in the nation that has this life bank, which is the organization that they harvest organs, and it's very beneficial. And they actually pay us the rent for the space, so it's a very good project. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0082, a resolution approving a loan in the amount not to exceed $1 million to Blue Sky Campus Incorporated for a Brownfield Redevelopment Fund project located at 9501 Granger Road, Garfield Heights, authorizing the county executive and/or director of development to execute all documents required in connection with said loan and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
All right, moved by Mr. Schron and seconded by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0088, a resolution accepting the rehabilitation of county parking lots and driveways located at the York Road Maintenance Yard in the city of North Royalton and the Fitch Road Maintenance Yard in Olmsted Township as complete and in accordance with plans and specifications, requesting authority for the county treasurer to release the escrow account in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 153.63 and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher. Who seconded? Greenspan. Any discussion? I did find out when you release the escrow account, this is a done deal finished. From the very beginning to the end, this is the last thing that's done. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0089, a resolution authorizing the county executive to make an application for allocation from county motor vehicle $5 license tax funds in the amount of $2,009,091.22 for improvement of Stump Road from Snow Road to Pearl Road in the cities of Parma and Parma Heights, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Motion to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Germanis, seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0090, a resolution approving specifications and estimate of cost in the amount not to exceed $1,800,000 for rehabilitation of Old Mill Road, Bridge number 162, over the Chagrin River in the village of Gates Mills, authorizing the Department of Purchasing to advertise for bids on requisition number 19651 and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
To adopt.
Second. Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion?
Great Little River Road.
And this is actually like the beginning of the process. The last one, when we saw the release the escrow, that was the end of the process. So this is like the first step when we go out for bids for specification. And then there's lots of steps in between. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0091, a resolution authorizing the county executive to grant sewer builders licenses for the year 2011, authorizing the director of public works to execute said licenses, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I recuse myself from voting on this as I insure one of these contractors.
Then do we need to revote? Okay. No, okay, so Mr. Germain just recused himself. All right. Thank you, Mr. Germain.
So the vote passes 10-1.
All right.
Or, I'm sorry, recused. 10-0 with one recusal. Okay, thank you. Resolution number 2011-0092, a resolution authorizing the county executive to prepare and enter into an amendment, subsidiary number 1, to contract number CE 1000111 with Suburban Maintenance and Construction Incorporated for replacement of Main Street Bridge number 36 over Baldwin Creek in the cities of Middleburg Heights and Strongsville for additional funds in the amount of $82,720.99 and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Motion to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
If the ayes have it, the motion carried.
Resolution number 2011-0093, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, subsidiary number 1, to contract number CE 10568 with Perk Company Incorporated for scour repair of Old Royalton Road Bridge number 108 over Chippewa Creek in the city of Brecksville for a decrease in the amount of $17,081.83.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schwan, seconded by Mr. Greenspan. Discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0094, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 18812 to Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Company Incorporated in the amount of $6,696,970.75 for improvement of Stump Road from Snow Road to Pearl Road in the cities of Parma and Parma Heights, and authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Jimena, seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion?
Madam President? I'm sorry to disrupt the flow. The only question I have, and this goes to my comment earlier about the Board of Control, is I guess at some point I would like some understanding of how this money is allocated to these particular districts.
No, I asked that question, and Ms. Tiwan had said she was going to come back with a presentation because, I mean, it just seems like there's an inordinate number of projects in Parma.
That's true.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Miller and Mr. Manna.
Madam President, we brought up this very point in committee in the Public Works Committee, and the director testified that they keep pavement ratings for all of the streets, and they don't make any effort to allocate it based on geography, but where there's the most, where the streets are in the worst condition is where they do it, and it's kind of a good news, bad news for Councilmember Germana's district. It means that a lot of streets in his area have been neglected for a long time and allowed to get in bad condition. So they're catching up on it a little bit.
Madam Chair, as I out in committee, the great city of Parma, the second largest city in the county. In fact, it's surrounded by we touch 9 different cities. And on many of these improvements, half the road is in Parma, the other half is in these other cities. So if you consider Seven Hills, Broadview Heights, North Railton, Middleburg Heights, Parma Heights, Brook Park, Brooklyn, Cleveland, Brooklyn Heights, all abut Parma, and many of the county roads are principal roads that surround Parma, and a number of them go through Parma. Secondly, these roads are all, we've been very patient because these roads are in pretty poor condition. So I just wanted to point that out for the record, because it does seem like we're finally getting to the Parma and the suburbs of Parma.
Are you ready for mayor?
And Madam President, as Ms. Tewan has shared with us, we actually only fix county roads, and we'll be looking to receive a map of the county and an overlay of the roads that are county property, so that we can see where the roads. If all the roads are just in Parma, that's one thing. But as we'll see where the roads are that the county is certainly fixing and dealing with the most needed.
Yes, Ms. Simon.
Madam Chair, I would ask that perhaps when that presentation occurs with the map and a determination of identification of county roads, if we could do that during a work session and to get an understanding of the rating system and when the roads are actually assessed. It's usually in the spring. So just a request, maybe all of us want to understand that too.
I talked to Mr. Master today. Also, I think we're going to also have a brief presentation at one of the meetings that, from the first time someone says, oh, that road should be fixed till the last thing that happens and the escrow is released, they're going to go through the whole process for us so that we can understand each and every, because I know Jean brought me a list today. It was about, 2 yards long of the various steps that have to be gone through. So that might help us in understanding this process. All right, any other discussion? What is it? All roads lead to Rome. I think all roads lead to Parma. All right, any other discussion? We can call the roll. We can have a vote on this. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. I think we're at 0095.
Yes. Resolution number 2011-0095, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 18997 to Longo Sewer Construction Incorporated in the amount of $378,993 for replacement of storm and sanitary sewers in Grandis Road and Thraves Road, located in the city of Garfield Heights, County Sewer District Number 9, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
I moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Resolution number 2011-0096, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, change order number 1 to contract number CE 0900784 with ESI Incorporated for electrical services for the Courthouse Tower Interiors project in connection with the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center project to increase the unforeseen conditions cash allowance from $570,439 to $699,239 and for additional funds in the amount of $128,800 and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move passage.
Moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Any discussion?
What did we identify? Were the unknown circumstances that kicked in the additional $128,000 in this particular case?
We have the John Hunter as well as the juvenile court people here, but what we learned in committee is when they went in to do the wiring, and I'm not a tech person, but they underestimated or did not foresee the need for as many of these boxes that are necessary for the wiring. You'll see here so it's a wiring issue that it was just, I can't express or really explain this as well as our IT guy, but it's really, as I understand it, was just the wiring needs and the box needs.
Were these the hubs that we're talking about for?
Drop boxes, right? What are they, drop?
For the wireless drops?
Yes, so if you look directly behind you on that wall, the box sticking out, that's a wireless antenna that provides wireless service. So when the building was finished, we did a site survey, which was walked around, and then this will ensure that the wireless signal is consistent throughout the building.
Does this go into the wiring side of the budget line, or does it go into the IT side? This is usually where these kind of things differentiate.
I couldn't answer a budget question. I mean, a financial question on what dollars it's allocated out of. But it does go to a wiring. The wireless is connected to the wired network.
It relates back to the questions I was asking earlier when we were talking about computer costs and whether or not there's a hub cost that gets associated with other items that get extended. That was about 2 hours ago when those questions came up. I wasn't sure to make sure that when we talk about computers, this is an item that gets directly related to the computers in today's environment because of the wireless connections that are needed, and make sure that these costs get actually allocated into the total computer cost.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Rogers.
I'm not on the committee, but I read something about this in the paper, and it was my understanding that I guess there are currently 2 boxes on each floor, and they needed 18 on each floor? Is that
There was wiring done for the floor, and more devices were needed per floor, and this is providing the additional wiring.
an additional 16 per floor? Is that?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Greenspan.
who designed this? Who designed the fact that we're short 16 per floor? Is this the company out of South Carolina that laid this out, as they claim they were responsible for everything within the building?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Who designed the floor not to have enough wireless routers on the floor?
I don't know how they originally allocated the wireless connections for the building, so I can't properly answer that question.
I think we're asking, if I may, Madam Chair, to comment on this. Who's they? I think that's what my colleague's question is. They. You
Right.
said.
Who designed?
Who did the building design?
And who did the technical, whether it's electrical or whether it's, as Mr. Schron said, whether it's electrical or IT? Somebody had to do the design work on this. Who did the design work?
I am not sure who did the original design work. When we had the site survey done, it was a company out of Cincinnati that came up to do that site survey.
Not what? I didn't hear you.
When we did the site survey for the wireless, the company had come out of Cincinnati, and that was in November timeframe for the wireless overview.
All right, any other questions? Satisfied with the answer?
Well, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm not satisfied because I don't understand how this can happen. And now we're going to have to cough up some money for what I believe would be an error of omissions stipulation in somebody's agreement with the county. So that's why I'm trying to understand where the design flaw happened and who ultimately is responsible. Because you know what? It shouldn't be us.
From an IT standpoint, I can't answer that question. That would be part of the original building design.
And Madam President, we've had a motion and a second because we're discussing this.
Yes, that's for discussion.
I would maybe consider us deferring these next 2 items at least till we get some more information. Defer it to our next meeting. Either that or I'm going to vote no because this is not acceptable.
Yes, Ms. Simon.
I would ask that Sharon Cullen, perhaps Matt Rubino, Matt to step up, because there was a thorough explanation as to this process, as thorough as we're going to get. I don't advocate that we table this or not move forward at this point. We're on a pretty strict timeline with this Juvenile Justice Center, and if we were to not move forward tonight, that's going to throw that backwards significantly. In terms of implying or stating that there was a flaw necessarily in this process, perhaps there was a flaw, but we're here now. If there's any litigation to commence, that's going to take a long time to get compensated for any liability that, if there is any. But I think part of this process as well is that we are within, and Matt Rubino could speak to this, within the budget that was anticipated, and I think that needs to be stressed.
Madam President, to Councilman Simon, you are correct. We submitted and Council approved an additional appropriation of $1.66 million at the March 8th regular Council meeting. That additional appropriation to the project budget covers all of these contracts, requests for contracts and services related to both computer equipment and to completing the wireless. Now, I know there are questions about the design and why there were additional dollars needed to be expended to complete wireless, and those are separate and distinct from the question of the budgetary allocation in the project. That is now covered. We're at a total project budget, hard and soft costs, including computers, including wiring, of 186.1, and that also includes accommodating these encumbrances for the equipment earlier in the agenda and the adjustments to the contracts for wireless, for example. They're within the allocation in the project now.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to stress that this budget was in place before the new government. I think this was at the end of December, correct, that the majority of this money was allocated or estimated to be allocated?
Councilman Simon, 184.4 was in place. The last piece came into place. That was the 1.66 million to accommodate the computers. There was an additional appropriation item in December of last year for over $4 million for a variety of things, equipment and some other items for the project. But the piece that was approved at March 8th takes care of everything else when you're looking at the allocation level, approval to expend resources from the project budget. Now you're looking at the business of approving contracts for either equipment or completing the wireless, which are covered by the budget that's in place right now.
Mr. Schrein, Mr. Greenspan, Mr. Miller.
Yes, Mr. Reader, I'm not questioning the budget. I'm not questioning the dollars and cents that have been allocated, not questioning the amount that will satisfy the need. My concern is over here in on the project side. There has to have been a project design document that said that we are going to have wireless routers on every floor satisfying the needs of those end users out there someplace, or else we wouldn't even have gone down this path. I can only assume that we didn't put 2 in with the intent that 2 was going to satisfy it. We put in a design specification within that plan document that said it's going to be an effective system. What the problem is that we're now spending more money, not whether or not it's in the budget or not within the budget. The question is, do we have some cause of action, not to be exercised, I agree with Ms. Simon today, but do we have a cause of action that potentially could move forward against the design document aspect of this?
Madam President.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
If I could, I mean, look, these are very germane and appropriate questions. It's the first thing that we started asking about when we looked at cost overruns is there a clawback provision or argument that we can make if these overruns are happening because of design flaws? That's all. And Mr. Merriman can answer the question, because that was one of the first questions. As soon as I heard there was this issue about additional computer, I wanted to know if that was covered by anything. And David, if I could, David, go ahead.
Yes, for the record, first, my name is David Merriman, and I would like to do one clarification first. I believe the item that we're debating right now or discussing right now is item R2011-0096 for $128,800. That is actually, this is not associated with the wireless, and so you excuse I think the misstatement.
All right.
That is actually connection of the CourtSmart system to the servers that serve the that CourtSmart system. So that's a point of clarification. CourtSmart was always associated with the project. That was a cost from the start.
That's the video recording?
Yeah, that's
okay.
the audio recording is actually the purpose. And so, so if I can, with that clarification. And so that's the item that you're looking at in front of you right now. The next item is associated with the wireless, and so I think we're still on the same 2 issues. And my understanding is there was debate throughout the process as to how much wireless should be within the building. And at one time there was some discussion about whether or not the building should have wireless all over, or it should be in certain areas. And so, you know, there was an initial investment and some initial planning that did not appear to fully conceptualize having a modern building, in my opinion. And so wireless was included. It was clearly under planned for because they needed additional boxes. And I think that is now where we're at. If you will envision that we have 1 wireless drop for this room, having walked through the facility, you'll see how large it is. You could imagine that 2 per floor would be inadequate. But again, so the developers that laid out the design clearly did not think that through.
All right, are you finished, Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, we used to say your witness at that point in time.
And through the chair to the councilman, we have been working very closely with Councilwoman Sunny Simon. We have been working very closely if there were any requests for specific information to make sure that they got that. So we made sure that she received the timeline based on whenever this legislation was approved, that the installation of the computers would be effective. So if there is any additional information that you would need, we will get it in a timely fashion as we did for the information we got for Councilwoman Simon. So,
Mr. Greenspan?
That clear.
Thank you, Madam President. Then I have additional wireless comments. I'll reserve them till the next item. If this is the audio equipment, what change that is requiring $128,000 worth of additional spending?
On that issue, I'd like to bring up the juvenile court. They manage the procurement of the court smart system, and they may be able to shed some light on how that procurement process was provided and what additional expenses occurred.
I think I need to clarify the record somewhat. We did not manage the procurement. What we identified was what our needs were. And I'll have to give you a little history about that. It was right around 2000, 2001 that the court had to make a difficult decision about what to do in the next era for recording all of its cases. I'm sure you all know and appreciate that by law, and for the juvenile court specifically, Juvenile Rule 37, we must record all of our proceedings. We had equipment that was literally 40, 50 years old because at one point we relied upon reel-to-reel recording and cassette recording for all of our proceedings. The equipment was absolutely antiquated. It could not keep up with our demand, so we had to analyze and investigate what might make the most sense at that point in time, and thought long and hard about establishing a court reporting department or perhaps tapping into the new wave technology of audio-digital recording. So in 2002, 2003, we did our homework and we crunched a lot of numbers, and we think we made it a profoundly prudent decision to go with digital audio recording as opposed to establishing a whole new unit of people. Our initial investment was somewhere around $425,000 to establish court recording, audio-digital court recording, in the main courthouse at 2163 East 22nd Street, and then the satellites at Metzenbaum and Whitlatch. Had we decided to hire a crew of people, it would have been approximately $1.8 million by our best guess. So that was a decision that we made, that the court was investing in audio-digital recording, and that's how we would continue in the future. When all was said and done with the decision about the new Juvenile Justice Center, we were asked again if it was our intention to continue to do so. We said absolutely, because we knew it made economic sense for the county, and also because we had 7 years of stored audio proceedings that we needed to keep, and we would have had to maintain some system anyway just in order to retrieve that on an as-needed basis. We provided our specifications then to the project construction team. They went through the bid process, and we were advised that they picked the best and lowest vendor, which happened to be the same vendor that we are currently using in our present facility, and that is CourtSmart. I really can't address this change order that had to be made for the wiring. The little bit that we were told is once the vendor was selected, they then survey to make sure that there is adequate wiring. They don't do the wiring themselves. In something like a construction project, they indicate what needs to be done. Project construction team then negotiated and identified this newly identified need with the contractor on board. and this was the price, and this was the quote. I hope that helps.
Madam Chair. Oh, go ahead, colleague.
Thank you. So the project construction team was presented with an information that was deemed a new need. But in 2001 to 2003, it was identified that this was going to be required. So how is that a new need as the construction of the building is happening?
The backbone wiring for...
I mean, I've built buildings before, and you always go through your plans up front, and you lock in your pricing. You know, what
Right.
I mean, we're talking about a 20% increase in cost. If my math is, maybe it's a little higher. You know, almost to quote my colleague Mike Gallagher, why this?
Certainly.
You know.
I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the current concerns. I really, truly do. I'm sharing with you all the information that I really have. Again, we provide the specifications for what we, and I should clarify what we meant by that the court had decided we needed audio-digital recording, that we were going to have X number of courtrooms, that there were certain ADA requirements that we were aware of that the county needed to comply with. A bid package was put together. It was let out. They came back. The lowest and best bidder was chosen. At some point in time, Court Smart then talked to the project construction team and said there's got to be some additions to what they call the backbone wiring, and at that point in time, conversations took place with the electrical contractor.
Madam President, well, I'm sorry, one last question. Of this original $570,000, there was a contingency budget associated with that, I would assume. Where did that money go? Or is that being deferred, is the 128 being deferred by part of that?
I really can't answer that, Councilman Greenspan. Somebody from Central Services or connected to the actual project construction team would be much better versed than I could even begin to be.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Madam President, and I'd like to direct this question to whoever at the table can answer it. And my question is regarding both the $128,800 in Resolution 0096 and the $138,000 in 0097. How much of this money is simply due to the fact that we decided that we needed to purchase more equipment than was originally planned? And how much of this is additional expense that we're incurring because we have to go back in late after the project is almost completed? Expenses that could have been avoided if the design had been proper in the first place.
As to the issue of when the expense would occur, at this point I can't speak to why this was not done earlier in the process, why these weren't included earlier in the process, if I understand your question correctly. I will say that the 128 was included in the $4.2 million that was allocated for the project back in December by the previous administration, whereas the the 138,000 for the ordinance 0097 was included in the $1.669 million request, which is to say that each of these requests fall to different portions of the phases of the project.
Madam Chair? My question was not understood.
Okay.
So I'm going to try again. I'm not trying to ask why this wasn't included in the original design or what fund these dollar amounts were included in or not included in. What I'm trying to find out is if these items had been included and designed from the start, how much of the 128,000 and the 138,000 would we have saved, because we do not have to go back in now and tear open a building that's already almost been completed? And how much of these dollar amounts would we not save simply because we're purchasing additional equipment in addition to what had originally been planned?
Let me ask the Director of Public Works to address the tearing open of the building, if I may.
I can kind of address the first part of the question as far as additional costs, because this was later rather than during the initial construction. I don't know if we can actually identify exactly what those costs are. A lot of the wiring is in the ceilings, in the drop ceilings. They may originally, when they constructed, if you looked at the construction on what happened on the 4th floor, they put in the drop ceiling, most of the panels they put in, and then they went through and they did some of the wiring, which is what they would have to do now. They would have to take out the panelings and put in the appropriate wiring. The process will take a little longer because everything is in place already. Can we quantify that? It would be a guess at actually what that quantification of what that dollar value would be. Back to Councilman Greenspan's question as far as the cost. If you're looking at holding somebody responsible for errors and omissions, it ends up being just the additional cost and not necessarily what was missed in the plan. So those are the types of costs that we could go back to the designer and say, because you missed this, this is what it cost us, and you know how we exactly quantify that. It comes into a huge legal battle. That's just the first part of the question. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Thank you, Madam President. And another factor we were looking at to try to quantify and identify this gap per se was inflation, all of these factors into all of these additional costs because of the time lag. But as our Public Works Director indicated, it's hard to quantify exactly each factor, but there are several factors which would account for this increase. And just for clarification, the CourtSmart system that was selected in 2001, at that point, is that the point in time you chose to do this for all of the juvenile locations?
Current locations for our current 3 buildings, not the new building.
Right.
So
that needs to be clarified, that originally in 2001, you were speaking to the current locations, which are
Correct.
spread out into different buildings. And so the 2001 Councilman Greenspan was talking about wasn't necessarily the current structure. Did I understand you? You made a decision in 2001 to go with CourtSmart.
To abdicate our prior recording system, to not create a court reporter unit for basically covering the period from 2002 until today. Then in the past year, as part of the project construction, we were asked, do we want to continue with the same notion, or did the court have other types of ideas? And we said it has been a resounding success. It works extremely well, and we know that it's cost-wise the smartest way to go for Cuyahoga County.
Oh, I can just follow up. And so then in 2006 was the actual, when did you actually, so I just wanted to make that clear. The 2001 projection was not necessarily for this project.
It had nothing to do with that. The 2001 projection was where we were at in 2001, and at that point in time, We assumed that that the original Court Smart notion, the original Court Smart package, was going to be around for decades because we were going to be on 2163 East 22nd Street for decades. Seriously.
Madam President. Madam President. I just wanted to make a couple brief comments on this. I think there's a couple things I think that are clear, and there's some things that are not clear. What's clear to me is that there should have been more planning and more of an understanding of exactly all the needs of the facility. We know that. There should have been more of a public process. It should have been more. It should have thought about, or there should have been more of a deliberative process about what were the needs of the facility going to be on the tech side, on the furniture side, on the space side, on a lot of different things. That's clear, and we can't fix that. And it's also clear to me that there weren't very clear lines of authority as far as who was really making decisions. Obviously, people aren't rushing forward to say, I was making the decisions. That's why nobody ever wants to come to the podium. But it's clear to me that that wasn't even defined enough. And I think a lot of that is what we were talking about earlier. When you're dealing with the judicial branch and executive branch, there are times when the executive branch doesn't feel like they can dictate to the judicial branch. The judicial branch is saying, well, we're into dispensing justice. We're not project managers. And then you have the actual company that's performing the work. And these lines were blurred during this whole process. What's also clear to me is that it wasn't always unanimous in terms of the court or the county telling the project manager what they wanted. So if, for instance, there was indecision about whether or not they wanted it to be a completely wireless facility, and by the way, there are reasons why you wouldn't want a courthouse maybe to be completely wireless, because you may not want a bunch of juveniles to have internet access everywhere in the building, and there are arguments to be made on that. I think that might be antiquated, but there are arguments to be made on that. So if wants or desires or even needs of the building changed over time, there isn't going to be any liability on behalf of a project manager or the construction company on that. They'll have to accommodate a moving target. Now we have delayed this to do some oversight. I think that oversight has been appropriate. We have to open up the facility and we have to get it moving, and juvenile court has to get there. We are not precluding going after any of the contractors or any of the contract managers for any errors or omissions they actually made. You can tell, and any of us that have ever dealt with construction litigation, you can see where the litigation would end up popping up. They're going to say they didn't get, I can predict, they're going to say, well, we built everything we were supposed to, and they changed the specifications. That's what lawsuits are made of. I can tell you, at this point, council's got to decide whether they want the facility to open or not. If they want to wait for construction litigation, if that ever happens, if you want that whole process to resolve before this facility is even opened. But what I can tell you is we are not precluded from going after any of the contractors, any of the designers, any of the architects, or anything else. We're not foreclosed from that option whatsoever. And we haven't, I'm sure the council hasn't decided, and we haven't decided as the executive branch or our new law department, we haven't decided that we don't have those options. What we're doing is we're going through this process and we're trying to document everything we have. And if after we figured out that we've documented everything we possibly can, if we think that there are design flaws, then somebody should be held accountable, and then the county will be reimbursed. That's typically the way it works. Well, that is the way it works in these construction matters. Same thing as if you have a change order on a road project, you don't sue the contractor to fix the road because people need to use the road. You are stuck with the bill because of the error, and then you go after the company later and say, either pursuant to an insurance contract or directly from the contractor, you try to get reimbursed for your funds. The other thing I would just say is the lesson to be learned out of this is how do we have a process the next time the county has a major project that we're partners in, whether with the court system or on our own, what are the lessons to be learned from this so we don't repeat history? But I just want council to know that just because you're voting on this and the funds are expended doesn't mean that no private party that may have been responsible can be held accountable. We can still do that, and we will pursue that if, after our review, we think that there are grounds to do that.
All right, Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Jaman, and Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think you've done the best you can today with what you have, and this has been a very frustrating road to go down, and actually what Mr. Fitzgerald was saying is what I was going to say, is that this council, at this point in time, has a decision to make whether to go forward or not go forward. I don't want to vote on these, to be honest with you, but I'm going to, and the only reason I'm going to is because it has to get opened. But here's what I would suggest that we do, because we have the power to do it. When this is all said and done, I want to bring everybody in here. I want to bring the judges in here. I want to bring the administrators in here. I want to bring the contractors. I want to bring everybody in here. Because there's a story that we're not hearing. We've asked for things, and we really haven't gotten them. We've seen things that are outrageous with Viking refrigerators and obnoxious things. And it frustrates us as taxpayers, not elected officials, and then we're the elected officials up here having to make the decision. So what I would suggest that we do is we move forward, vote our conscience on these items, get this building open, and then use the powers that we have to go forward as to find out if we can get to the bottom of this story, because there is a lot more to this. And as Mr. Fitzgerald said, I think some of the key players that had a big say in what was going on here and what got us here are hiding. And they're sending you here, and that's not fair. So I would suggest we move forward.
Mr. Germana.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Councilman Miller's question was right to the point. We're getting additional wiring. The court is getting additional wiring to be able to use, and that we should pay for. Okay, whether we decided sooner or later, we decided we needed it. So we're getting the wiring. I think where the argument comes in is there extra expense by doing it separately. And if we had anything, the county had anything coming back, it's the extra expense for not doing it at the same time. But, most of this is, pretty much straight cost for so much. When they bid these computer programs and even electrical programs, it's a cost per, I think it's linear feet, so on. We're getting the feet. It's just a matter if there was the extra expense. So I'm in favor of us moving on.
Mr. Rogers?
I just had one question on the court smart system. So that eliminates the need for a court reporter. Is that my understanding?
We've never had court reporters, but if we did not have something like a court smart, we would have to have court reporters. General Division's budget right now for their court reporters is $2.6 million. We are seeking to make this one-time investment. It's actually the next piece of legislation. I don't think we've even quite gotten there yet. That's a far lesser cost than the $2.6 million that court reporters would cost, and we will have to incur a modest maintenance fee throughout the years that we continue to use CourtSmart. And every now and again, in a planful way, we will have to upgrade such things as microphones and servers and that kind of thing. But we made a very conscious decision that this was the wisest route to go for the purpose of recording at all times the proceedings of the juvenile court.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Simon?
Madam Chair, just as a final word before we move forward on the next few items, is I don't begrudge this process and the final product of this new tower, this juvenile court, and the detention center. I don't begrudge that at all. The conditions in which these juveniles and the judges and the attorneys have had to endure, especially these children in the 22nd location, is just deplorable. And unfortunately, our committee has not yet toured that, but I am going to schedule a tour of that just old detention center. It's turn of the century. It's old. It's antiquated. It does no justice to these children, and for them to have an opportunity to reform, to learn how to change diapers, to learn how to cook, to teach them a skill, to not live in these conditions, I think is commendable. And for us to focus on the items that are in fact, quote, obnoxious, I don't disagree with necessarily, but that's our focus. When we look at the big picture, this is something to be proud of in this county. These children should be proud to walk into that, and hopefully what we're all rooting for is reform, is to help these juveniles to get into a job, and this is the beginning. These are the doors they enter, and we hope they go out into society, not into a jail. So I just want to state that for the record, that I am proud of this Justice Center, and hope that it will bring a lot of change to these juveniles and their lives. So I will say some things are bad, and we can focus on that, but I think there's some good, and I just want to say that I'm glad the council, at least for now, is going to support this process, and hopefully we'll see some change in our county.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Jermaine and Mr. Greenspan.
You know, as I'm reading through this, and with my own argument of extra expense, I'm reading that this extra wiring is according to the state contract. So there may not be any extra expense. They may be giving us the wiring at the same price if they had installed it at the same time. Because if they're only allowed to get so much per foot, we may not have any extra expense because we're getting the value of that wiring in the first place.
All right, Mr. Greenspan.
I just have one question. If we didn't appropriate the extra $128,800, how would you make it? How would you make do?
Madam President, Councilman Greenspan, the dollars are already appropriated. Right now, the budget includes all the foreseen.
I understand.
Okay.
Council, you said one question.
Well, now there's a point to that. Well, just because you have a budget doesn't mean you spend up to it.
Correct.
And Mr. Germana brought that point home when we were visiting the center. You build to what's practical. So my question is, forget the allocation. If we didn't approve this, what would happen?
Without the infrastructure wiring, the audio video for the court wouldn't be active and working to the specs to the company. As far as the wireless, there wouldn't be wireless access. So
No, this is the audio. This is the wiring for the audio.
Right.
So you're saying that how many courtrooms would not be affected? How many? Where would the line be?
I'm a lawyer, I'm not an electrician, but I don't think not one courtroom could function with the capacity of recording its proceedings. I don't think we could hold one hearing in the new Justice Center.
So the 128's an all or nothing? I mean, if the appropriation doesn't happen, we have no capability in the facility?
It's characterized as the backbone wiring for the audio recording system.
If I could, Madam President, to Councilman, we have seen things in this facility that were wants and not needs, and those are the ones that have gotten the most negative press attention. This isn't part of the reason why you're facing your concern about the whole process is right on the money. This is a need. I mean, this is not this, and that was one of the things that highlights the flaw in the system, because or the whole design process, because it's not something that should have been unanticipated. It's not something that was a surprise or anything of that nature. This is something they always had to do, and just to go back many years into my past, when I was a guardian ad litem at juvenile court, and then also when I was a prosecutor at juvenile court, they had, I almost want to call them 8-track systems. I mean, it was unbelievably antiquated. Now, this isn't just that is not a luxury item. If you do not have a reliable recording system, the child's appellate rights cannot be guaranteed. And every child, even though it's not technically it's a delinquent proceeding, not a criminal proceeding, but the child still has appellate rights. They had cases that could not proceed in appellate cases because they couldn't hear the tapes because the quality was so poor. Now, that's not just something that, first of all, obviously the child has a right to that, but also even when the kid is delinquent, when they did the crime that they did, you're going to have children that have been found delinquent of serious crimes, and the prosecutor is going to be prevented from substantiating what happened on the record, because the court has to give the benefit of the doubt if there's a failure to the defendant, if there's a failure in the recording equipment. And it's really kind of striking, because in the adult system you have a court reporter for everything. You have kids that are being tried for murder, and there is a 30-year-old recorder hoping to pick up testimony of an eyewitness. I mean, you had cases that are being heard in regarding whether or not a kid was going to be incarcerated and or detained in a juvenile facility in a room that was 10 feet by 10 feet sometimes. I mean, the conditions, as Councilwoman Simon was talking about, were like something, I mean, they were really something literally out of the turn of the century. So, but on this particular item, the reason why I think although your concerns are well-founded, that you don't have, I don't think, much of a reasonable alternative in this case, is that this is backbone wiring, and that system must be reliable, and you can't do without it. If we had a vote here on something that had to do with a nice amenity for the system about gym equipment or conference tables, I think the vote would be no, and we'd be saying don't vote for it too.
Yes, we've heard this discussion, and for good reason, for a long time. But I just wanted to go back to, before I move to approve this legislation, that I toured the facility over 20 years ago. And I really wish that everybody on the council at some point really knew what the conditions were like then. If you think what you saw is appalling now, you would be much more appalled by the conditions that you would have seen then, and that was over 20 years ago. So I'd like to move approval.
All right, let's call for a vote on this matter. If there's no one ready, all those in favor of item number 0096 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. 0097.
Move to adopt. Oh, do we need to read it? Sorry, I am now in a hurry. Yeah.
Resolution number 2011-0097, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment, change order number 2 to contract number CE 0900784 with ESI Incorporated for electrical services for the Courthouse Tower Interiors Project in connection with the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center project to increase the unforeseen conditions cash allowance from $699,239 to $837,239, and for additional funds in the amount of $138,000, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Now move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Is there any discussion?
Madam President, I just reiterate my comments from the earlier in regards to this, because this seems to me clearly to be a poor definition by somebody when they laid out the scope for this aspect. Unlike the electrical backbone, this is something that seems to me should have been caught within the design and the design function.
All right, let's call for a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. We have a no for Mr. Greenspan. The ayes have it. Item 0098.
Madam President, if I may clarify the first and second on that vote.
Okay, the first was Ms. Simon, second by Ms. Conwell.
Thank you. Resolution number 2011-0098, a resolution approving an award on requisition number 19354 to Court Smart Digital Systems Incorporated in the amount of $625,277 for digital audio recording equipment for juvenile court in connection with the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center project, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion?
Madam Chair? Yes. Just one final word. This is the actual court reporting system, the digital system, and there was no unanticipated need there. They knew they needed it, and now it's just, we're we're allocating the money to do that now. So it's the final piece of the digital system. And I just want to be clear for the record that, there are things we're going to be looking at the Justice Center beyond these needs, as the executive stated. And one of the most offensive items that I want to look at is the gym equipment, which I've stated to my colleagues that I found that to be most offensive, that the judges have their own private gym. But aside from that, I just want people to know that the Justice Affairs Committee is going to continue to look at all of this. But I appreciate moving forward tonight.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
One comment.
Yes.
I've been to the microphone a number of times tonight, and I've been remiss by not first indicating I was supposed to, and I intended to extend warm greetings on behalf of our Administrative Judge Thomas O'Malley, who is usually in attendance with me at these meetings. He had a huge conflict tonight. His daughter, who is a senior at St. Joseph Academy, was being honored at their sports banquet tonight, and it was at the exact same time of the meeting. In addition, he wanted to make sure that we expressed our gratitude for the extra measures, the extra steps all of you have been taking for the Juvenile Justice Center. We appreciate the position you have been put in. You are the inaugural county council, and we know a bit about your inheritance. We're grateful for what you have done thus far. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, 0101.
Resolution number 2011-0101, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of self-supporting housing revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $6,500,000 for Famicos Doan Classroom for the purpose of rehabilitating, improving, and equipping a senior housing facility for low and moderate income seniors, authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement, bond purchase agreement, trust indenture, and tax regulatory agreement, authorizing and approving the use and distribution of a disclosure document, approving related matters, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schron, seconded by Mr. Germana. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Schron.
Just so the audience is aware that this is not the county that's actually on the hook for any of these bonds. This is completely using our good offices just to help facilitate this. The borrower is completely on the hook for everything in regards to this. There was no responsibility, as we had the presentation a few weeks ago, in regards to this. So I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable. It's not the county that's actually physically loaning the money out there. It's just using the county offices to help facilitate this. Did I take your thunder? Sorry about that. I just want to make sure we got moved along.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, number 0102.
Resolution number 2011-0102, a resolution authorizing juvenile court through the county executive to enter into an agreement with Cuyahoga County Department of Justice Affairs Office of Mediation in the amount not to exceed $400,000 for the juvenile court custody mediation project for the period February 1st, 2011 through January 31st, 2012, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, just briefly, Justice Affairs also reviewed this particular contract in the committee meeting, and it's simply a contract renewal, basically a new contract to use the services of mediation from Justice Affairs, which is a huge cost saver for the court. It allows particularly pro se, unrepresented, unmarried people to engage in mediation involving custody disputes and or visitation rather than going through full proceedings with litigation, which requires more expenditure of time and money of the court resources, including magistrate and judges. So this is a upfront cost saver.
All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. 0104.
Resolution number 2011-0104, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into Title 4D cooperative agreement contracts with various providers for child support services for the period January 1, 2011 through December 31, 2011, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. One, with Court of Common Pleas, Division of Domestic Relations, in the amount of $2,082,307.49. Two, with Court of Common Pleas, Division of Juvenile Court, in the amount of $2,218,669.89. And three, with Office of the Prosecuting Attorney of Cuyahoga County, in the amount of $2,257,588.70.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Ms. Simon, these are funds not from the general fund, is that correct?
Madam President, 60% of the money for these contracts comes from not outside the general fund. It's a reimbursement of 60% for child support enforcement. So, federal dollars.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Item 20, consideration of an ordinance for first reading and referral to committee, but I believe there's going to be a motion by Mr. Germano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move that Rule 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions be read at 3 different regular council meetings, and Rule 13A requiring reference to committee be suspended, and that ordinance 211-0021 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
I moved by Mr. Germano and seconded by Mr. Miller on a suspension of the rules. Any discussion on suspension of the rules?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Germano.
We've passed a couple other pieces of legislation concerning this. This is an easement allowing Ferris Realty Limited to have a easement so that they could service their sign and so on. Cuyahoga County owns this very small parcel in front of the building of disabilities, and this is a 500-foot road that's going to be paved in the city of Brooklyn, and this is holding it up. So this is why we'd like to get this passed. It's a $500 easement, and it's very, very common and normal.
All right, a vote on the suspension of the rules. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it on the suspension of the rules. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2011-0021, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to grant a permanent easement to Ferris Realty Limited for the sum of $500 for the right to access, install, maintain, relocate, repair, and replace a sign on, over, and under certain portions of county-owned property located at 10991 Memphis Avenue in the city of Brooklyn in connection with construction of Memphis Industrial Parkway, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
A move by Mr. Germano, seconded by Mr. Rogers. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Item 21, committee report and consideration of an ordinance for second reading.
Ordinance number 2011-0015, an ordinance to expire on or before June 30th, 2011, providing for the approval and adoption of human resources policies and procedures for Cuyahoga County, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
I believe this will be no action, and it will just stay with the Human Resource Committee. Is that correct?
Madam
Yes.
Madam President, it will not go back to the Human Resource Committee. It will just reside here
Okay, just reside
for third
here.
reading. However, I do have an amendment to make in the policy itself, and I would ask that we vote on the amendment, and then at the third reading, maybe Mr. Miller can help me. The third reading, we insert the amended document. Is that proper protocol?
Do you have it written? Do you have the amendment written?
I have the amendment right here. Yes, it's very simple. It basically touches on what Ms. Mayor touched on earlier in the ethics portion of this, of the
I
policy.
think to the lateness of the hour and the complexity of all the matters we've dealt with, I think would everybody be satisfied with just getting that submitted to us and passing it at the next meeting so that we
Yeah,
can
I'm fine
thoroughly
with that.
review
That's
it?
why I'm saying I just want to know what the
Yeah.
proper procedure is at this point.
Mr. Miller, Mr. Rules over here?
By protocol, we have our choice. We can amend it at second reading if we wish, or we can do the amending at third reading, or some of both.
Let's do the amendment on the third reading. We've all had a pretty long day today. All right, so there's no action taken on item 21. Mr. Conwell.
Chair, for number 14, we didn't know which committee you sent that to. Attendance at meetings and participating.
Give me a page number.
Parking.
Parking.
Send it to a committee.
Public Works, yeah. All right, fortunately, our executive session was canceled. Do we have any miscellaneous committee reports?
Madam President, I just have one thing. I'll go fast, Mr. Schron.
Okay.
I sent an email out last week regarding amendments to the ethics ordinance. I would ask, we're going to vote on that on April 5th. I would ask that the deadline for initial amendments be 1 week from today. So if you can please forward your amendments in writing, I'll be able to compile a report for us to discuss and vote on April 5th.
All right, thank you. Any other miscellaneous committee reports? Mr. Jamal?
Madam Chair, this is not a committee report. This happens to be a comment having to do with the juvenile detention center and the juvenile court. Since Ms. Simon brought it up about the gym equipment, the room, the fitness room is there, the shower's there, the lockers room's there, and we have this gym equipment. Now, if we send the gym equipment back, you still have this room that is set up for a gym. Now, we spend, and we're asked to donate $5 for water so that we're not drinking water up in our administration building for taxpayer expense. We're paying for parking. Instead of sending it back, I think we should establish a charge for people that use the gym so that it's already there, so that it's not at taxpayer expense. And I think we could do a study. If I was a judge or magistrate or somebody working there, if I'd have the benefit of being able to, before work or after work out, take a shower, and not have to go to Bally's and so on and so forth, it would be worth it. So that's my opinion. It's already done. So let's get this so it's not at taxpayers' expense. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we can look at all options regarding the gym equipment at Justice Affairs. Maybe I'll have a special meeting for us to look at what to do. We've had several thoughts about the gym equipment, one of which was to sell it and donate the proceeds to a children or juvenile program. One was to make it into a little mini club. One was to allow admittance to all employees rather than just the judges. So, all these are worthy of looking at. I did ask for a list of the equipment, the cost of it, and who owns it, and I now have that. So maybe we'll have a special Justice Affairs committee. Maybe we'll have it over.
Well, if the employees and the judges use the equipment, then that will eventually help their health and reduce our health care costs. So,
Madam President.
Mr. Miller.
Madam President, as the sponsor of the bill in cooperation with the chairman, I would ask if anyone has any proposed amendments to the contracting and procurement ordinance, which we discussed today in second reading, that they forward those to me and to Chairman Purnell Jones by April 1. And second thing is that I would like to take just a moment to thank everybody who worked with me on the public records ordinance, and particularly to thank Councilman Dave Greenspan, who both chaired the committee and co-sponsored the ordinance, and also to thank our archivist Judy Satina for her advice, and to thank Joanne Gross and Janice Patterson and everybody else who helped on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anything further? Under miscellaneous business, I would like to make an announcement that I'll be appointing Councilwoman Sunny Simon to the Planning Commission as the council's representative. Wow. Are there any public comment? No one is signed in. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Before we have adjournment, I would like to announce that on Thursday, the 24th, we will be having a Committee of the Whole meeting for the confirmation of Mr. Larry Bender for Economic Development Director. On April the 5th, we will have a regular council meeting. On March, I'm out of order here, March 29th at 3 o'clock, we will be interviewing the new law director for confirmation hearings, Mr. Majid Makouf. We have a council's work session on April the 12th at 4, and also a regular meeting on April the 12th at 6. If there is nothing else for the good of the order, is there a motion to adjourn? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Motion, the meeting is adjourned. We can't put this much on the agenda.